Ada was a woman everyone admired. She was beautiful, elegant, and carried herself with grace. Everywhere she went, people noticed her. Women wanted to be like her, and men wanted to be with her. She lived in a luxurious home, drove the latest car, and had a wardrobe filled with designer clothes. From the outside, her life looked perfect, like something out of a fairy tale. But deep inside, Ada felt empty. She had everything she could ever want, but something was missing. Something that no amount of money could buy. Love. She had been in relationships before, but they all ended the same way. The men she met only wanted her for her beauty, her worth, or just for fun. They never took her seriously. They never truly cared about her heart. It was always the same story. Sweet words at first, promises of love, and then, in the end, they only wanted one thing. Once they got what they wanted, they left. At night, Ada would sit on her balcony, staring at the stars. The city lights shimmered below, and the cool breeze played with her hair. But even in such a beauty, she felt alone. Was it too much to ask for someone real? Someone who would love her for who she was, or what she had. Someone who would hold her close and whisper words that came from heart. Her best friend, Gabby, always told her that she deserved better. But where would she find that kind of love? She had searched everywhere, but it seemed like true love just didn't exist anymore. Maybe it was just a dream, a fancy that only happened in movies and books. Little did Adana know her search for love was about to lead her into the darkness nightmare of her life. Adana's best friend, Gabby, was the only person who truly understood her. They had been friends since childhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and laughter. Whenever Adana felt down, Gabby was always there to lift her spirit. She had a wild and carefree personality, always full of energy, and never afraid to speak her mind. One evening, as they sat to their favorite cafe, sipping a fruit cocktails, the city lights glowed softly in the distance, and the warm breeze made the evening feel magical. But despite the beautiful atmosphere, Adana's heart felt heavy. She stirred her drink, absent-mindedly lost in thought. Gabby leaned forward, studying her friend's face. "Okay, spill it up," she said. "You've been zoning out the entire time. What's wrong?" Adana sighed. "I don't know, Gabby. I just feel lonely." Gabby rolled her eyes. "Girl, you're literally one of the most beautiful women I know. You could have any man you want. Why are you still single?" That's the problem," Adana said, frustration creeping in her voice. "Every man I met only want one thing. They are not serious. I want something real, you know? Someone who actually cares about me." Gabby took a sip of her drink and smirked. "Have you tried online dating?" Adana laughed. "Me? Online dating? That's for desperate people." Gabby raised an eyebrow. "Oh, come on. It's 2025. Everyone does online dating now. Besides, what do you have to lose?" Adana hesitated. The idea of meeting a stranger online seemed risky, even ridiculous. But if Gabby was right, what if her soulmate was out there waiting for her? That night, Adana lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The idea wouldn't leave her mind. Maybe it was time to try something different. And so, with a deep breath, she grabbed her phone and downloaded a dating app. The next morning, Adana sat on her couch, scrolling through the dating app. It felt strange. putting herself out there like this. She carefully picked a few of her best pictures, ones where she looked elegant yet natural. Then she wrote a short bio, looking for something real, no games, just love. Within minutes, messages flooded in. Most of them were the same, shallow compliments and men who were clearly not serious. Damn, you gorgeous. I'd love to take you on a private jet ride. You're too beautiful to be single. Adana said it was exactly as she had expected. None of these men truly wanted to get to know her. Just as she was about to delete the app, a new message popped up. David, hello Adana. You have the most beautiful smile. I would love to get to know you. Something about this message felt different. It wasn't overly but forced. It was simple and sincere. Curious, Adana replied, and from that moment everything changed. David was unlike any man Adana had ever met. Their conversations flowed effortlessly, as if they had known each other for years. He was charming, funny, and intelligent. They talked about everything: life, dreams, books, even their childhood memories. As days turned into weeks, their connection deepened. They started video calling, and every time Adana saw him, her heart skipped a beat. David was handsome, tall, with sharp features and kind eyes. He always dressed perfectly, like a man straight out of fashion magazine. One night, as they talked on a video call, David leaned forward, smiling. You know, I feel like I've known you forever. Adana laughed softly. Me too. It's crazy how fast time flies when we talk. David hesitated for a moment before saying, let's meet in person. Adana's heart pounded. She had been waiting for this moment, yet now it was here. She felt nervous. What if he wasn't who he claimed to be? But something inside told her to take the chance. Okay, she said, let's do it. The next day of the meeting, Adana took extra care in getting ready. She chose a stunning, elegant dress that hung her curves perfectly, did her makeup, wore her favorite perfume. She wanted to look her best for David. The location he had sent her wasn't a restaurant or a cafe like she had expected. It was a mansion, a massive, elegant estate with tall gates and beautiful manicured garden. Adana stepped out of her car, her heels clicking against the pavement. As she approached the entrance, the heavy wooden door opened, and there stood David, looking even more handsome than on the video. He wore a sharp black suit, and in his hand he held a single red flower. You look breathtaking, he said, offering her a flower. Adana smiled, her heart fluttering. Thank you. You look amazing too. But as she stepped inside the mansion, something felt off. The house was grand, with expensive furniture and sparkling things, but something was missing. There was no pictures, no family pictures, no personal touches, just empty, lifeless walls. Adana pushed the feelings aside. Maybe he just liked a modern, minimalist look. They sat down for dinner and everything seemed perfect. The food was delicious. The conversation flowed slowly and David's eyes never left her. You are the most beautiful woman I ever met, he said, his voice soft yet intense. Adana blushed, but kept down. The uneasy feeling remained. Then Adana felt the urge of using the bathroom. I'll be right back, she said, standing up. David nodded and pointed down the hallway. Last door on the left. Adana smiled and walked away. But as she reached the hall, she accidentally took the wrong door. What she saw next made her blood run cold. Adana pushed the door open, expecting to find a guest bathroom. Instead, she stepped into a dark, cold room. The air felt heavy and the strange mouthfeel filled her nose. Her hand trembled slightly as she searched for the light. When her fingers found it, she flipped it on. Her heart nearly stopped. The walls were covered with photos, hundreds of them, but they weren't just ordinary pictures. They were all photos of women, some smiling, some looking serious, and others looked afraid. Many of the photos had red circles drawn around their faces. Others had eyes scratched out, leaving dark aerial marks across the image. Adana's breath quickened. This was strange, too strange. Why would David have a room like this? And then her eyes landed on a familiar face. Her own photo. It was pinned in the center of the wall. A red circle was drawn around her face, and beneath it, her name was written in neat handwriting, Adana. Her hands trembled as she took a deep step back forward. Fear began creeping in her chest, tightened and cold. What was this place? Suddenly, a faint sound reached her ears, whispers. They were soft but chilling, coming from somewhere nearby. Adana's heart pounded against her ribs as she turned her head towards a small door at the back of the room. Her curiosity, mixed with fear, pushed her forward. She opened the door just a crack and peeped inside. What she saw made her stomach churn. It was a dimly lit room, cold and silent. In the middle stood a long wooden table, and around it sat many women. Their skin was pale, too pale, and their eyes stared blankly ahead. They wore white dresses, and their hands rested lightly on their laps. At first, Adana thought they were mannequins, but then she looked closer. She realized the truth. They were real women, but something was horribly wrong. They didn't move, they didn't blink. It was as if their spirits had been drained from their bodies. The only sign they were alive was the faint rise and fall of their chests. Adana's breath hinged as she backed away, her pulse thundering in her ears. She had to leave now. But as she turned to escape, she bumped into something solid. No, not something, someone. David. He stood in the doorway, his face calm but his eyes cold and unrecognizable. "You weren't supposed to say this," he said softly, his voice smooth but thundering. Adana froze in a place, her heart hammering against her ribs. Every instinct in her body screamed run, but her legs felt like lead. "You! What are you doing with these women?" Her voice trembled, barely above a whisper. David smiled, a slow, aerial smile that made her skin crawl. "They're part of something bigger," he said, "and now you are too." Adana's survival instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he spun around and shoved him with all her strength. David stumbled backward, his grip losing for just a moment. She didn't wait. She ran, her heels clattering against the marble floor. As she dashed through the mansion, her breath raged with panic. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to get away. She didn't stop until she reached the main road, waving frantically as headlights appeared in the distance. A passing car slowed down, and a concerned driver rolled down the windows. "Please," Ada gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Help!" The driver didn't hesitate. He unlocked the door and Adana scrambled inside. Locking it behind her as a car sped off, she glanced back at the mansion. David stood at the entrance, his face calm but his eyes burned with rage. At the police station, Ada told the officers everything. She described the photos, the lifeless women, and the strange whispers. She begged them to check the mansion before David could hurt anyone else. 2 officers agreed to investigate. They drove back to the mansion with Adan, her heart still racing. But when they arrived, her blood ran cold. The mansion looked different. The area feeling was gone. When the officers searched inside, there was no forbidden room, no photos on the walls, no pale women sitting on the table. It was just an empty, elegant home. The officer shook his head. "Miss, are you sure you are not imagining things? There is nothing here." Adana felt like she was going crazy. "I'm telling you, I saw them. He's dangerous." But without any evidence, the police couldn't do anything. They took her statement and told her to go home and rest. Adana knew the truth, but no one believed in her. That night, back home, Adana tried to calm herself, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop thinking about the women in the mansion. Were they still trapped? Were they even alive? At midnight, her phone buzzed. A new message. It was from unknown number. "You shouldn't have rain, Adana." Her heart stopped. It was David. Her hands trembled as she blocked the number, but fear couldn't go away. When she tried to sleep, she heard faint whispers, the same whispers from the mansion. Was David watching her? She knew one thing for sure. He wasn't finished with her yet. Adana tossed and turned in bed, unable to shake off the eerie feeling. The whispers were faint but unmistakable. They echoed through her room, soft yet chilling, like voices calling from a distant place. Her breath came in short gasp as she sat up, her body covered in sweat. Was she imagining things? Maybe it was just her fear playing tricks on her. She reached for her phone and dialed Gabby's number. It rang once, twice, then a sleepy voice answered. "Adana, do you have any idea what time is it?" Adana swallowed hard. "Gabby, something is wrong. I think David is watching me." That woke Gabby up instantly. "Wait, what? What happened?" Adana told her everything, how the police found nothing, how she received threatening messages, and now the whispers in her room. Gabby was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I'm coming over, don't move." Hearing those words made Adana feel a little safer. She wasn't alone. When Gabby arrived, she searched the entire house. Nothing seemed out of place, but Adana couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, something unseen. "I believe you," Gabby said firmly, "but we need to be smart about this. If the police wouldn't help, we have to find another way to prove David is hiding something." Adana nodded. "I need to go back. I need to save those women." Gabby's eyes widened. "Are you crazy? That man is dangerous." "I know," Adana said, "but if I don't, something will hurt more people. I can't just sit here and do nothing." Gabby sighed. "Then we're doing this together." The next day, Adana and Gabby sat in a cafe planning their next move. They needed a proof, a real proof, if they wanted anyone to believe them. "We sneak into the mansion, take pictures of whatever we find, record everything and get out of there before he noticed." Adana hesitated. The thought of going back to that place made her stomach turn, but she knew there was no other way. That evening, they both dressed in dark clothes, drove towards the mansion. The plan was simple. Gabby would keep watching while Adana went inside. If anything went wrong, she would call for help. As they approached the estate, the gate stood tall and intimidating. Adana's pulse quickened. She was really doing this. Gabby grabbed her hand. "Be careful." Adana nodded and slipped through the side gate. The mansion loomed in darkness, silent and still. She crept towards the entrance, her heart pounding. Then the front door cracked open on its own. Adana hesitated but forced herself to step inside. The mansion was quiet, as if it was waiting for her. She moved carefully, trying to remember the path to the hidden room. But as she turned to the corner, she froze. David was standing at the edge of the hallway. His face was calm, but his eyes gleamed with something dark. "I knew you would come back," he said smoothly. Adana's blood turned to ice. "You don't understand," David continued, stepping closer. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I just want to bring her back." Adana swallowed hard. "Bring her back? Who?" David sighed, as if she should already know. "My love, my beautiful Isabella." He gestured towards a door behind him. "Come, let me show you." Adana knew she should run, but something deep inside her, curiosity, fear, or maybe both, kept her rooted in a place. David opened the door, and what Adana saw inside made her stomach hinge. It was a shrine, a massive portrait of a woman, the same woman from the photos, hung in the center. Candles flickered around it, casting a real shadow. On the floor, laying strange symbols drawn in red. David's voice was airy soft. "She died too soon, but I found a way to bring her back. I just need women who resembled her. Women like you." Adana's body sniffed in terror. Suddenly, David reached for her. "You could be the one to complete the ritual. You should feel honored." Adana snapped out of her trance and kicked him hard in her stomach. He stumbled back and she bowed towards the door. She had to get out of here now. Adana ran as fast as she could, her heart hammering her chest. She reached the entrance, but the door slammed shut on its own. A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't just David. There was something else here. David's voice came from her behind. "You can't run, Adana. It's already begun." She spun around, fist clenched. "I'm not going to let you do this." David lunged at her, but Adana dodged, grabbing a vase from a nearby table and smashing it against his head. He roamed, collapsing onto the floor. Adana wasted no time. She grabbed her phone and snapped pictures of everything: the shrine, the symbols, and the portrait. Then she heard a faint sound. The women. She couldn't leave them behind. She ran back to the sacred room and threw open the door. The women were still there, their eyes blank, their bodies unmoving. Adana rushed to them, shaking their shoulders. "Wake up! You are free now." One of them blinked slowly. A whisper escaped her lips. "Help us." Adana's stomach clenched. They were alive, but barely. She turned to leave, but David was standing in the doorway, blood dripping from his forehead. "You're ruining everything," he glowed. Adana braced herself. "I'm ending this." David lunged at her again, but this time she was ready. With all her strength, she grabbed a candle from a shrine and flung it towards the curtain. The fabric bursted into flames. David's eyes widened. "No!" The fire spread quickly, licking up the walls, consuming everything in its path. Adana grabbed the weakest woman and pulled her up. "Move, we have to go." The others slowly walking from their trace. As the flames roared behind them, Adana and the women escaped into the night. Outside, Gabby was waiting with the car. Her eyes widened as she saw the mansion burning. "Adana!" she screamed. "What happened?" "No time to explain," Adana gasped. "We need to get these women out of here." The police and firefighters arrived minutes later. The mansion was reduced to ashes, and David was nowhere to be found. Days later, the news reported that the estate belonged to a long-dead family. David had never legally existed. The women Ada saved slowly gained their memories. They had been trapped in a trace for months, their spirits nearly drained by the ritual. Adana knew she had done the right thing. She had survived, and more importantly, she had saved lives. As she sat with Gabby on her balcony one night, watching the stars, she finally felt at peace. Maybe true love didn't come her way yet, but one thing was certain: she would never be fooled again. And so for David, somewhere in the shadow, he was still out there watching. But this time, Adana was ready. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for reaching this far. Kindly subscribe, leave something in the comment section. Just let me know where you're watching this from and what you've learned in the story. So see you in my next video. I love you all. Bye bye.